Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. I am Brenda. This is Reading by My Shelf. So today I wanted to talk about my January reading wrap up as well as my January book haul. In the month of January, I read 3 books. I read 2 science fiction novels and 1 horror novel. I had 2 3-stars and 1 4-star. The first book that I read was Leviathan Wakes by James S.A. Corey. I gave this book 3 stars and it came in at 561 pages. In this book, humanity has colonized the solar system. Now Mars and Earth and the Belters are at odds in this politically charged adventure story. One thing that I really loved about this dual perspective novel was the banter between the 2 main characters. I think that the banter really pulls this novel through because the plot at times felt predictable. Although there were some suspenseful moments, and I did enjoy this overall. So the thing in this book that really shines is the banter between the 2 main characters. While the plot is suspenseful and thrilling, it was at times a little bit predictable, I believe. And I did start this going into it having seen part of the first season of the show, which I believe took away some of the experience for me. I don't generally like to do that. So the ending of this book was really intriguing and I can't wait to get back into it to see where it goes. I've heard that as the series continues on, there's 8 books, I believe 8 books. It just gets better and better, and so I will definitely be continuing in the expanse. The next book that I read was another sci-fi. I gave this book 3 stars. It came in at 826 pages, and that is To Sleep in a Sea of Stars by Christopher Paolini. This is a first context story, and I feel like this is a good starter sci-fi for people who are newer to the genre. And I say this because there wasn't a lot of technical jargon. The names and the dialogue at times felt a little juvenile. In particular, I didn't love the fact that the aliens were called jellies and monsters. That kind of detracted from the overall feel of the book. I did have a little bit of pacing concerns and issues with this as well. I think that a lot of times there were things that were glossed over or sped through, where the lead up to it, he put much more emphasis on it. And when it reached the peak, he just it all fell apart and suddenly it wasn't important anymore. So one of the best things about this book to me were the side characters. The interaction between the side characters and the main character were funny and whimsical and charming, and I really enjoyed them. One of the top main side characters that I really loved was the ship mind, Grigorovich. The way that he spoke and his banter with the main character and all of the characters, it was funny and it was definitely entertaining. So I would recommend this to, like I said, newer sci-fi readers who maybe are intimidated by heavy sci-fi that contains a lot of science and technical jargon. This is definitely not one of those and would be a good starting place for you. So I just want to mention that I did do a reading vlog on this book in which I did a little wrap up at the end where I go a little bit deeper into my thoughts and feelings. So if you wanted to check that out, I will post a link for that in the top corner. The next book that I read was a horror. I gave this one 4 stars and it came in at 342 pages, and that is The September House. This is a haunted house story. It contains the typical creepy aspects that you would expect from a haunted house story, but it also adds a satirical, charming, whimsical aspect that sets this apart from your typical haunted house story. And while this felt in many ways similar to Amityville Horror and also The Yellow Wallpaper, it does contain some triggers for mental illness and abuse. It has a lot of quirky, fun vibes, and it does, like I said, have a juxtaposition between, that satire aspect and the serious aspect, in which this author uses the main character's nonchalant attitude towards these ghosts that kind of live in her house, and she kind of has to tiptoe around them, but she doesn't care. She's so nonchalant about it. She just keeps going on with her day, and she's like, I can deal with this. And so her attitude and her voice is definitely makes her an unreliable narrator. So you don't know, is this really happening or is she mad? This was a lot of fun. It was delightful and unexpected, a little cliched at times, but that's kind of what you get when you go into a haunted house story. I also did a reading vlog on this in which I included a wrap up that gave my final thoughts. So if you're interested in hearing more about this, go check that out. Again, we'll link it in the tabs. I'm currently reading The Darkness That Comes Before. I am about halfway through, and so I won't include this in the reading wrap up for this month, obviously, but there will be a reading vlog for that coming up soon, and it will be included in next month's wrap up. So next I wanted to talk about the books that I hauled this month. So the first two books I have are on my Kindle. The first book is The Haunting of Maddie Clare. This is by Simone St. James. It takes place in 1920 England, in which our main character, Sarah, gets sent to assist a ghost hunter. Apparently there is an angry ghost, and they find themselves in an old abandoned house, and she is confronted with not only an angry ghost, but this ghost hunter who is apparently scarred and has PTSD-like symptoms from his being a part of World War I. So I hope to get to this one soon. I love Simone St. James. I've bought and read many of her books, and she always provides a very atmospheric and suspenseful read. You're never really sure what you're going to get, which I love. I really hate when an author's work is very formulaic and repetitive. So she usually provides just the opposite of that. She usually includes some sort of psychological aspect to her books, which always adds intrigue for me, and it always has a very satisfying ending. So if you have not read from Simone St. James before, I recommend her books. She certainly mixes it up, and not any one of her stories is the same. Next, I have Nettle and Bone. This is a very popular book a year or two ago that I never did read. It is by T. Kingfisher, and I believe that this is sort of a fairy tale-esque story in which a girl, our main character Mara, sets out to save her sister. And in doing this, she makes a deal with a witch, I believe. I've heard it called strange and enchanting. I look forward to this as people rave about T. Kingfisher. And I feel like this may be a darker take on your typical fairy tale type tale. So with that in mind, I look forward to getting to this one soon as well. Next, I have Northern Wrath. I'm not even going to attempt to say the name. There it is, if you want to go look it up. This is actually the Broken Binding Special Edition that I just recently received in the mail and actually filmed an unboxing for. It's in my shorts if you wanted to watch it. But it is a beautiful book with these lovely end papers and golden foiled hardback. And so I don't know much about this other than the fact that it is a Norse-inspired adventure tale. I understand that there are demons, and it talks about the Vikings' war with the Christians. They're trying to hold on to their traditions and save their gods. I've heard this kind of is reminiscent of a Neil Gaiman story. I really don't know. I just thought that the edition was beautiful and it was Norse inspired, which really intrigued me. I do love a good Norse-inspired show or book. Hopefully this is a unique exploration of their culture and that it is compelling and satisfying. It is a chunky book. Let's see. Well, 558 pages. So pretty chunky, not too bad. And the last book I've talked about in other videos, but I will mention it again, obviously, in my haul, and that is The Abyss Beyond Dreams by Peter F. Hamilton. And this is a sci-fi in which there is a void, and within this void, the laws of physics don't apply the same way they do in our universe. Apparently it holds some hugely destructive capabilities, and there is a race of spaceborne predators. They have been conquering other planets and worlds, and they come across a planet that holds humans that had gone missing from this other spacecraft. So yeah, that's all I really know about this. And I've never read from Peter Hamilton before. So I'm really hoping that this is kind of an edge of your seat first contact story. I really love first contact in my sci-fi. So that wraps it up, and I would love to chat with you more about these books in the comments. Like the video if you liked it, and subscribe to see more. I post videos every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. See you again soon.
They've been kind of